This is Isaac Morehouse. Welcome to the podcast where we discuss education, entrepreneurship, big ideas, how to put them into practice in the real world, and above all, how to live free. I am incredibly excited about today's episode. Giddy as a schoolgirl, you might say, for two reasons. One is that I think secretly I still harbor this hope that I will have a second career as a rock star. So people who have made a career in music are always inspiring to me. And two, from the first moment a friend sort of pushed me to try doing a podcast, and I thought, well, what would I talk about? Who would I talk with? Our guest today was one of the first people that came to mind, and it has been a long time since I started the podcast, relatively speaking. But finally, we have with us today Lucas Jack, who is a musician who has a fascinating and really, I think, inspiring backstory. And not only that, I grew up with this guy. So we both grew up in Kalamazoo, Michigan, in kind of a conservative community. And Luke was always at a piano. I mean, he would find a piano like anywhere we were. Somehow he would find some dusty piano in a closet and start playing like love ballads and taking requests from everybody from age like, I don't know, 10. And one quick story, Luke, before I let you speak, is we were at some kind of it was some kind of a like retreat or like men's Bible thing with some sort of really conservative church. And it was my brother and I and you and your brothers and your dad. And we were waiting for everyone to board this bus. And we're in this church and Luke finds a piano and he starts banging away and singing. And his dad rushes over and he's like, Luke, you can't sing bar music in here. This is a church. It was amazing. Always the rebel. So Lucas Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me, Isaac.
That was quite a long setup, but I want to get to you. Tell us, kind of to start with, from a very young age, you were very passionate about music and piano. I don't know if you taught yourself or you had lessons, but did you plan from a young age to have a career in music?
I never really did. It just didn't, for some reason, it did not register as as even being on the radar of possibilities. The only thing that was really on my radar, as you know, we kind of had a sheltered existence a little bit. The only thing that was really on my radar was people that played music in churches, so like worship leaders and ministers and stuff like that. And I had absolutely zero interest in doing that. So I didn't really consider it as an option, but I always really loved playing. And I wrote songs. I've been writing songs since I was like 5 or 6 years old. And I did take piano lessons for many, many years up and through college. So I was classically trained. But at the beginning of my lessons, I remember I would write songs that were much cooler sounding and much better than the stuff I learned in the recital. So for like several recitals that I have, my teachers just said, "Why don't you just play that song you wrote? It just sounds so much better than it would." Because I was not a great student. But so I've been writing songs forever, and I really always enjoyed writing songs, including lyrics. But I never really let myself have that sort of dream, if you will. It was sort of like I also knew I wasn't going to play in the NBA.
Well, but I mean, back in those days, you were not only the most talented musician, but you were the best basketball player in our circle. So you were the one we were all pinning our hopes on for the NBA.
Yeah, but you knew it wasn't going to happen. So, I mean, I'm looking at my parents and my brothers, and yeah, I wasn't cut out for the NBA. But it was sort of like that. It was sort of pipe dreamish like that. And I didn't really focus on it too much, even though I played music all the time. I think of myself as not being, I think, I wasn't that musical because I didn't go to all kinds of record stores and have a great collection and have my favorite bands and go to concerts and have posters and do all this stuff and be part of get fan mail or any of that kind of stuff or send fan mail. But I still was really into music. I was playing music basically every day and singing and listening to music. So I was really involved with music, but I guess wasn't the cool kid music. It was kind of like, churchy music or top 40 stuff. But so I never really had a plan to go into it full time, and so it just didn't come to fruition.
Well, let's be clear. If I recall, it was more like top 40 from 10 or 15 or 20 years previously. Everyone else was, talking about whatever, Puff Daddy, and you were playing like Jackson Brown and Journey.
I was playing stuff that had piano in it. That's totally true. I was definitely more into the easy rock stuff. I did listen to WKFR a lot, which had the top 40, but that was mostly in high school. Before that, yeah, I was hardcore into mom rock.
So, all right, I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit. I want to talk about where you're at now, and sort of describe your music, your what you do briefly, and then we'll kind of go in and backfill a little bit more how you got there. So, lucasjackmusic.com, by the way, I should have said at the outset, is where you can go find all kinds of great songs, information about Lucas Jack, and tell us, like, how would you describe your style and kind of your, I don't know, where you're at sort of on the scene right now.
Yeah, so I sit at a piano and I sing, so that kind of puts me in a certain category, at least in people's minds. I'm not jumping around the stage, and I'm not playing a guitar. I have an old upright piano that I play at every show, and it's in all my videos. I play the same piano in every video. So I'm sitting at a piano singing. So for whatever reason, that kind of puts me into a piano category. Everybody calls it piano rock or piano pop. So I guess the best way to describe the music is it's what popular rock, like pop rock, was in the 70s.
Hmm.
There were a lot of, like you said, like Jackson Brown and Leon Russell and Mark Cohn a little bit later, but even Paul McCartney when he sat at a piano, and obviously Billy Joel, Elton John, Bruce Hornsby, those guys, they all sat at a piano and sang. So I'm kind, and that used to be pop rock. That used to be kind of considered, pop rock. But now pop rock is, Lady Gaga and Katy Perry and Rihanna. So pop is, I'm obviously not very pop anymore. But with today's music industry so fragmented, there are so many genres because people can consume music in very particularized ways. They can find exactly what they want, and they can be in constant connection with that kind of music because of all the outlets, because of Spotify and Pandora and and Facebook and Twitter and YouTube and SoundCloud and all of these services, that now there are just a million categories of music. So it makes it even harder than it ever has been, I guess, to kind of figure out where you fit in the spectrum. But it also makes it easier for fans that are into your kind of music to find you. So it's a little bit of a double-edged sword. But I guess I would consider it kind of pop rock. And at this point, I'm in Texas right now, in San Antonio, and I play about 3 or 4 times a week.
And you play
Once
across the country,
I
correct? Or is that sort of just limited seasons?
It is, I mean, I go on tour a couple times a year. We just got back from the Midwest. So I primarily am a regional act. I primarily stick around Texas. I mean, to be fair, Texas is huge. So if I was someplace else, I'd probably be playing in 3 or 4 different states. But I have about a 7 or 8 hour radius that I play. And in Texas, that's a lot of places.
Yeah.
So Dallas and Austin and Houston and Corpus Christi and San Antonio and Boerne. Oh, and many other places, Fredericksburg, a whole lot of towns around here. So I kind of am a regional act, and we go on tour of the Midwest, of obviously where I'm from, like twice a year. So we just got back from doing 12 dates in 11 different states in August. We were gone for almost a month.
Wow.
And including a couple shows in Michigan. So yeah, so I kind of play 12 shows a month, and most of them are within 6 or 7 hours of my house. And then a couple times a year we go on a big regional tour of the Midwest.
Okay, so now you are a full-time musician. You also have a family. You're married and you have a daughter. How old is your daughter?
I've got 2 daughters.
You've got two daughters. Okay, yeah, go ahead.
I definitely have one.
that was the one I was sure about, and then I knew you had another child. I couldn't remember if it was a boy or a girl.
Yeah, no, I have 2 daughters. Clementine is 2.5, and Josie is a little over 1. She just turned 1. Okay. So, and they are 1 and 2, and my wife Julie she is a major in the Air Force.
Okay. Okay. So that's where you are now. Now I want to kind of go back and backfill from someone who in your teens didn't really see a career in music as necessarily an option or something that you treated real seriously. You went to college, and what was your sort of life trajectory at the time?
So I went to college and I did study music in college. I was kind of had a half plan to double major in music and something else, and I dropped that after a while because it just became too much work. But I did take a lot. I took piano lessons every day and every year, every semester in college, and I also went to college on a choir scholarship. So I sang in the choir every all 4 years of college. So I was around the music there, but I did not really plan. I did the music because I got money for it, and I enjoyed it, but I didn't have a plan to have a career. I briefly thought about being a cruise ship piano player. Uh,
No, that would be kind of an interesting gig.
yeah, it's a little bit of a soul sucker, but I know some people that have done it, and I knew a guy that I went to college with that did it. So that crossed my mind for a brief second, but I never followed through with it. I went to college thinking I was going to get a business degree and then become a business person, sort of like my father was. So I got a degree in accounting.
I did not
Um,
know you had an accounting degree.
I
I
do.
guess there's a connection there between the accountants use 10 keys and you use the 88 keys. I don't know. Maybe there's something there. Dexterity
No,
of the fingers.
I don't think there is any connection other than I'm really good at counting how much money I don't have now.
Maybe it's a curse when you're a musician to be good at
I've,
accounting.
I've got great. You know what? I will say, I do all my own books and all my own taxes, and there are a lot of write-offs that musicians can take.
There you
So
go. So even though you were playing some side gigs, you were doing some I remember you played at like hotel lobbies and stuff here and there and you were on a music scholarship, you were still focused on, okay, I'm going to go into business of some kind.
yeah, I thought that was going to happen. I was kind of also focused on finding a lady that wanted to spend some time with me. So I didn't see music as being a long-term, way to satisfy that desire that I had, because I thought I needed to,
It was the opener. It was the way to get the ladies, but you needed an income to keep them, right?
exactly, yeah, it was like, here, I'm cool, but I also have money. So yeah, so it was kind of driven by more practicality, and also some old gender norms, I guess.
The
Uh,
the breadwinner.
the breadwinner kind of stuff. So I went to college and I got a degree in accounting, and then it came time for going to job fairs and doing all that stuff. And I had some interviews and I just thought, oh man, I do not want to be an accountant. I was like, I'm interviewing with Comerica and some accounting firms, and I thought, I'm really good at being a student. Uh, so and I also like the student lifestyle a lot, which is pretty wonderful. So I'll just keep being a student and I'll go to law school. Everyone says I'm so argumentative. I thought that's just not a very nice way to talk about lawyers. But then I became a lawyer, and it's true, they're all just argumentative assholes.
I'm glad to know that my perceptions have not been incorrect. So you went to law school pretty much because you didn't like what was on the job market and you thought, well, I like being a student. I'm pretty sharp. I like to argue. Why not? This will give me a good income.
Yeah, kind of the same. It's the same decision over again. The same reason I went to college. Also, I wanted to move to a new city, and I wanted, so I moved to Chicago, went to law school there. It was a great experience. I'm really glad I did that. But yeah, I just kind of, I was propelled by the inertia of safe choices, and I knew that I was a good student. I knew I could compete. I was really competitive, so I would get good enough grades. And if you get good enough grades and you go to law school, I mean, the assumption is you're gonna end up a little bit better than people that don't. That was the assumption. I know that's not always true anymore, but that's the assumption that I went on. And I thought, and that's exactly what happened. In fact, I got pretty good grades in law school, and I got a pretty good job, and
Let me ask you.
everything played out.
Well, let me ask you briefly. By the way, I love that quote, "Propelled by the inertia of safe choices." That's pretty cool. So considering that, and we'll get to how this happened, that you're not practicing law anymore, and that you obviously preferred music to it. What was it about going to law school? Because I can imagine a lot of people who went to law school and didn't end up using a law degree regretting that decision. But you said it was actually a great experience going to Chicago and going to law school. What was it about that decision or that experience that made it a really great one for you?
Well, you know, I guess that my answer would be different if I had met no one and nothing good happened to me in those years. If then I would say, yeah, I shouldn't have done it. But basically, the reasons that I am glad I did is because I met all the people that I met. Obviously, I met my wife, and I met a bunch of my really great friends, and I had some, I learned a lot. I learned a lot in law school. I learned a lot practicing law, and it was nice to be a professional in what kind of feels like in a little bit of an elite group. That was fulfilling as a young guy who had never really had a real job to then be a lawyer. It felt kind of cool at first. That wears out pretty quickly. But all those things were, I think, really positive. And I had money. I was able to do things that were fun in the city and
You
have
were
nice
you were in a you
apartments.
were in a big city from coming from a small town, and I know you went to college in a small town going to Chicago. Was that was that just awesome for you?
It was totally awesome. I really wish that I had gone to undergrad someplace in a big city because I really love the city. But I didn't. It was good. It was a good decision for me. If I had no student loans that still remain outstanding, then I would say it was absolutely the greatest thing in my life. I had so much fun. And people ask, well, if you had to do it again, would you go back and just be playing music from the start? And that's a really tough question. And I think my life choices have really informed a lot of the way that I write music and think about music. And I don't know what I'd be writing about if I was writing my sixth album and I didn't have a wife or kids and I was
Yeah.
lonely in an alley somewhere with a piano.
So many. I mean, that's a great point. Your songs. It's really hard to separate who you are musically from what you've gone through, and it's hard to even imagine. Like your songs definitely they kind of reflect, at least it seems to me, both lyrically and just in the feel, kind of those phases where you've been, what you've gone through. On your bio on your website, you say that you are a recovering lawyer. So you went to law school, were a good student there, got a good job in law, and then what was it about that made you say when did you have that moment where you realized for the first time I actually want to pursue music full time, and what led to that?
Well, I was in several bands while I was in law school and also practicing, and I was at various times. And in one of those bands, I had a show in St. Louis. Actually, we were opening for John Oates of Hall and Oates. I was in this band. I wasn't the front man. I was just playing music. I was just playing keyboards in the back. And that night, I met my wife, who would become my wife, at that show. And then um, some time went by. I was in a relationship. She was in a different relationship. And then both of our relationships ended several months later. And I just found myself tagged in a Facebook photo with her because someone tagged us from the event. And so I contacted her, and a year later we were married. So we were both, and it was this big moment of upheaval in my life where I was not really happy. I was going nowhere. Uh, the lust, the allure of being an attorney and the cool parts of it, it had really worn away, and it was kind of getting to be more of a grind. And I fell in love with this girl, and she had to move to Texas to show up for duty in the Air Force. So I had to go either she was going to move away or we were going to get married, and I was going to move with her. So it was just this huge moment of upheaval in my life where I just all of a sudden thought, you know what? Why don't I try something different? I didn't have a plan. It wasn't a slow burn or a slow build. I didn't. It was not
You weren't
thought
like
out.
working on your music on the side, hoping it to get to a point where you could leave the law firm or anything like that.
No, nothing. Never anything like that. It just I met this girl
You
playing
chased a
this
girl
show.
across the country. That's the classic story, right?
It is, and she said, "What are you gonna do? You're gonna take the bar in Texas, and to practice in Texas." And I just told, and I first, and I don't, I remember this exact conversation that I had with her. She said, "So are you gonna take the bar? What are you gonna do in Texas?" I said, "No, I'm gonna make a career as a musician. I'm gonna be a songwriter." And
What?
she said, "Oh, okay, you should do that." And that was it. That was the entire
Wow.
decision. But it was a huge, I mean, obviously a huge decision. And then I bit off, way more than I could chew. But I really came to Texas with nothing.
Hmm.
In fact, as Luke J. Hinkle. And I came here. I thought, well, I need to use my first and middle names, and I had to write all new songs. And I started playing piano. I started really playing the piano when I got to Texas. For about 6 months, I just sat at a piano for 12 hours a day, and
Wow.
just got better, because I really hadn't gotten better
So,
since I
so
was
this
probably
so this was
16.
like it wasn't like I'm depressed or I'm inspired. This was like a disciplined choice. I need to get better. I need to play more.
Oh, yeah. I had to get my chops up. I had to compete, and I still do that. I still play all the time,
Hmm.
playing scales and arpeggios, and learn to read music again, and just doing all kinds of stuff. It was just kind of like music boot camp. But the back to your question, the thing that led me to, like, the decision process was really quick. It was, oh, I'm gonna quit my job. I'm gonna move to Texas. I'm gonna be a musician. I'm gonna get married to this girl I barely know. I had not, and in fact, I had never seen her on a Wednesday. We had figured that out because we lived apart. So I had never even been with her on a Wednesday
Who
until
knows? Maybe that's the day she's a werewolf or something, you know? Like
I know, I know. Well, in fact, I proposed. I flew to St. Louis and proposed to her on a Wednesday, just
just to make sure. She's
symbolically, yeah.
yeah.
And then and I waited around. Came to her apartment and waited for her to get home from work, and she didn't get home from work until like 10:30, and I didn't know where she was. And she got out of work at like 6, and she went to Nordstrom. I sat around in her apartment complex for hours and hours and hours. It was ridiculous. I thought, oh no, what have I done? I've come to propose. She's gonna come home with some Wednesday man. But she just came home with shopping bags, which was prescient of what's to come, I
Yeah,
guess.
that's almost scarier, maybe. I don't know. um, so with so she was okay with this decision to go into music. What about I know you were, off on your own by this point, but your family is still a pretty strong support network. Did you have friends and family that were worried about you and like, what are you doing? What are you throwing away this law career for? Did you get any pushback?
I didn't get any pushback from anybody. Everybody just said it's about goddamn time, Luke.
That's a
So
good sign.
yeah, well, you know, I definitely had you know, my buddies and stuff were definitely thinking, like, what are you doing? You really want to be a poor musician. Also, you really lose your independence when you lose all that money, when
Mm,
you don't have that income. It's your freedoms are you can't make as many decisions.
mm.
I can't, it's I can't just go leave. I don't have a whole bunch of money in the bank. I don't have $1,500 coming in every week, or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's a scary decision, because you feel, you become very dependent on me, my spouse. I'm very dependent on her to make money. And the thing, but to be fair, I can always go back to practicing law. I still have my license. I
Yeah.
still pay my dues and do my stuff. So even though I don't practice whatsoever and have no intention of doing it, I could always fall. It's a fallback plan. It's a
Yeah.
pretty solid fallback plan.
It's kind of, I kind of feel like once you've seen, and I, in a much less dramatic way, I think, I'd always been interested in entrepreneurialism, starting a business, whatever. And it took me 10 years before I actually did. And I think part of that, there's a lot of reasons why, but part of that was once I'd actually seen what the professional world was like and what I was capable of, like, okay, worst case, I can go get a job that I don't like selling whatever and make X amount. So the bottom isn't that far. Like, if everything totally goes to hell, then I've seen what's possible in the professional world if I'm willing to do a job that I don't like at all. And it's kind of like knowing where that bottom is can be sort of a good realization that lets you jump off into the unknown a little bit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the bottom is a known quantity. You can always return to it. And for a while, that wasn't a known quantity for me. And I go back to it several times. Many times, but I was kind of really concerned with being this breadwinner type, and it's tough to be a musician, and there's not a whole lot of bread.
Yeah.
So,
They don't sit at the bar and put bread in your jar.
oh man, you know how many times I've played that
I
song?
couldn't help myself. Yeah, are you sick of it yet?
Uh, I still like the song, but I just don't want to play it
I
a
mean,
thousand times a year.
it's like the equivalent of a full band at a wedding, like people see a guy with a upright piano, they start waving their lighters after a couple drinks. Play piano, man. It's got to come out.
Every day of my life. People ask me to play piano. I've played Piano Man at almost every show that I've played, if they're request shows, not ticketed original music shows. That's another thing that's been hard for me to get away from is I'm really, I know a whole bunch of songs, and it's been tough for me to break away as a piano. Something that's been difficult for me since I started playing music is to get away from the cover stuff, because people just want to, now with all these ridiculous piano bars everywhere, these dueling piano bars, everybody thinks they can just come up to the piano guy and throw money at him and he'll play whatever they want, which is unfortunately is kind of true.
I'm not a machine.
I'm not a machine. But you did give me $20 and I am broke, so so it's that's one thing that's been tough to transition for me, is to get people to be more into my original music, because I really don't want to be a lounge piano player that just plays covers.
Yeah. That's a huge challenge. And I mean, even imagine on a psychological level, and tell me if this is incorrect. If you get up and you play a show, maybe there's a couple hundred people there or whatever, and you're playing your own stuff, even if it's better stuff and you like playing it more, almost nobody's going to be singing because it's new. Most people don't know it. And there's less energy versus if you're playing something that everybody knows, they're all singing and dancing and they all love you and you're getting that sort of immediate feedback from the audience. It's got to be work to make yourself play new stuff when the psychic rewards, at least immediately, are less. Is that a true experience, or am I just imagining that?
That's 100% true. You put, a lot of performing music is it's sort of like a conversation between the artist, the performer, and the audience. It's a give and take. They kind of cheer, they dance, they move around, and the conversation goes very one-sided and basically dead when I play songs that they don't know. And that's really hard to say, to like bring the party down, or to just to make the conversation completely one-sided and leave them out of it. But so it's always very tempting when things are getting kind of slow to say, you know what, let's just play Tiny Dancer, which is what I do. Or let's play No Diggity again. You kind of have to do it to bring the energy up, but it's a fine line. I used to, when I came here, I used to play almost all covers because I didn't have any good originals. And I played all covers for a long, long time. And now over the last few years, I've transitioned into playing 90% of my songs are originals. And towards the end of the night, I'll play some songs that people know and want to hear. But it's also really empowering to have a body of work that's, I can play for 4 hours and play only my own songs.
Yeah.
And and it used to be I couldn't play for 20 minutes of my own songs. I didn't even have that much material. So it's been a real learning experience in the last few years. I learned something every time I play a show, and every month something gets better, and every year things improve, dramatically, it seems like. So it's a fun process. But yeah, the cover songs, it's tempting to play them, but once you play one cover song, that's all they're going to want to hear the rest of the night. They're like, oh, well, play Don't Stop Believin',
So there's sort of two versions of your story, maybe. There's the romantic idea. This guy quits his well-paying job as a lawyer in Chicago to chase his dream and become a musician. And everybody's happy. Now he's living his dream. Wow, what a bold and courageous thing. There's a lot of romance to it. I actually imagine that for many of us, we think that we want to do something that we love as a hobby, as a job, but really we don't, because once it's a job, it becomes a lot harder to still love it. And there's a lot of difficulty buried in there. And I want to know, apart from the romantic version, okay, you quit a job you hated to go do something you love. I mean, what's really hard about it? What sucks about it?
The more, quote unquote success that I achieve, the less music I play. So the less it becomes about music. So all morning I just got out of from 8 to 12 I was in a meeting with social media guru.
Wait a minute. I thought the whole reason to become a musician was to never have to sit through meetings and, you're sticking it to the man. Oh my gosh, you're in meetings, Lucas. What's happened?
Yeah, well, that's how
But
it's.
like Jay-Z said, you're a businessman.
Yes, just like Jay-Z said. No, it's so I need to be, I need to get better at certain aspects of running my business, and one of those aspects is having a better presence on social media. So I have this social media guy here who's a consultant, and we talked about all of the things. I mean, scheduling every single day, 12 tasks a day of stuff. Post this to Instagram, post this to Twitter, repurpose this for your blog, repurpose again for your newsletter, have exclusive content, set up a video blog, set up all the lights for the video blog. How are you going to run all the audio? Who's going to mix it? Are you going to mix it in, you're going to mix it in Pro Tools and then send the audio to to a video editing software. Um, Final Cut is what it is. And just all of these, just walking through exactly how we're going to cut these things and how many songs a week am I going to record and who are they going to go out to, how to grow the mailing list, what kind of content to blog. An hour and a half spent talking about fucking hashtags, and just and this is not the first of these meetings, okay?
Yeah.
So it's that kind of stuff that drives me crazy.
Did that take you by surprise when you first started? And first you were like, okay, focusing on my chops, I'm playing 12 hours a day. When you started going out there and gigging and the business side of it came, were you surprised by how much that takes, how involved that is?
Yeah. Well, I guess I always knew it was going to be like that. But I'm at a point in my career where I need to grow the business, the brand. It's
Yeah.
all about the brand and selling the story and all this stuff, mumbo jumbo. But it's all
Which you sound thrilled about. I think I actually heard you pounding on the table a minute ago when you were talking about it.
It's frustrating, but it's also part of the game.
Yeah.
It's part of it. You got to do it. And most people don't do it. They don't play. They don't understand that you have fans and you need to connect with them. You have to figure out where they are and connect with them and give them things that they want. And that's not just music. Sometimes that's access. Sometimes that's access to your personal life. Sometimes it's stuff that has nothing to do with your music. They just want to know where you're traveling, what you're eating, or what's just behind the scenes stuff that you think is really mundane and boring is interesting to them. Loading in. No one knows what it's like to load in and plug in mics and do a sound check. Most people don't, but to me it's just a terrible thing that I have to endure. But I need to take them into consideration and try to bring them along. They call it creating your tribe, and find my tribe and give them things that they want, because I'm a very strong believer in the market and the efficiency that it brings. And I think I have something that they want. So this exchange that we're making in this market, I think is important. And I don't want to forget about my customers, and I don't want to forget about my product. And a lot of bands just think, oh, it's my art, man. I just do it. It's just the music, man. Yeah, and then you don't have any fans on Facebook. You don't have a Twitter account. Nobody comes to your shows. And you might be a great musician, but you're just gonna be last in line. If you want to just disappear for a couple months and not talk to your fans and not stay connected to people, you're gonna disappear from their life, and they're not gonna remember you.
Yeah.
You got to stay right in the forefront, especially now with social media.
I mean, it's an experience. The music side, I definitely don't want to say an individual like song recording is just sort of a commodity as if they're all interchangeable, but all value for all goods is subjective, and in art, I think it's almost the easiest to see that with. So you're creating an experience for people, and it comes packaged with it all these other things that they know about you ahead of time. If someone says, oh, here's the new single by whatever, a never before released song by Bob Dylan, how good that song is by itself is such a small part of people's level of enjoyment and willingness to pay money for it, because it's coming wrapped with this whole experience of who Bob Dylan is, what he's meant to them, what they know about him before, all these and so you kind of have to create this full experience. You can't just sit down and play music, and that's got to be a lot of work, a huge challenge.
It is. You need to create the context in which they consume and they need to be in this mindset of, I know this artist, I know all about them, I think I know what this song is about, even if they don't. I saw them play it. They have a personal connection with the song, and you're right, it's part of a bigger contextual experience rather than just noise coming in your ears. And It's
Would you
a lot.
say, I don't want to interrupt again, but would you say that you are ideally like a live musician? So let me give you an example. Like whether it's playing music or giving a talk, I know some people where it's like if people just get in the room with this person, there is no way they won't walk away having a great experience. But getting them to say it's worth their time to go into that room is a big challenge. And sometimes what you can create in a live setting, it's very hard to convey that on a recording or through a tweet or whatever else. Would you describe yourself in that way? Like if I can get people to my shows, they're going to love it, but it's just getting them to see that it's worth it for them is the challenge.
that I think a lot of musicians say that, but I really, really, really believe that. I am completely. And if anybody's listening, please buy my music. But I know you won't. It's okay. Nobody buys music anymore.
Yeah.
I buy music from people. I have CDs that I don't open because I just want to support the artist.
Yeah.
I listen to Spotify. I listen to Apple Music. I listen to RDO. I listen to YouTube. That's how I listen to Pandora. That's how people consume music. So I'm over this bitch and moans session that everybody has about not nobody's buying my music. Nobody's buying anybody's music, dude.
So what's the product you're selling? Where is your revenue stream, sort of from a business model standpoint, or where do you hope for it to be?
Well, other than all the trinkets and toys that come along with,
Which
like,
by the way, lucasjackmusic.com, you can get some really cool T-shirts that say "Keep it upright." There's one with your beard and glasses, sort of a silhouette. Some great stuff there. Go check it out.
yeah. So that's the fun stuff that people want. Here's the thing: your fans want to support you. They want to give you money. They want people who like you. They want to support what you're doing. They just don't want to. I mean, they're only going to buy if they're going to buy a CD. They're only going to buy one. They're not going to buy 20 of them. So you got to give them other things to. You got to sell them other stuff. Some people feel like, oh, I'm whoring myself out selling all these T-shirts and koozies and wristbands and all this stuff. And it's really not about those wristbands and koozies and T-shirts. It's about giving your fans a way to connect with you and allowing them to support you financially. They just want to give you $100. If you don't have $100 of stuff to sell them, they're not going to give you $100. So I mean, I have tons of CDs that are not even opened, it's because I support those artists.
It makes me wonder, and I'm thinking out loud here, and you know much more about this than I do, but it makes me wonder about kind of flipping where the consumer comes into the process, flipping it around from the traditional idea of you put in all this work to produce something, and it's almost like this manufacturing model, this R&D and everything, and then you spit out the widget, an album, and people are supposed to pay for it. Now that people can get all the music for free, they want to be a part of what you're doing. I almost imagine like a Kickstarter style where you're like, I've got this concept. I want to write an album. I need to raise X amount of money to do it, to produce it, whatever else. You will be a part of the creation process. And then the end result is free for everybody. But those who like you and want to support you are actually supporting sort of the manufacturing and R&D process side. I don't know. It might be an interesting, maybe somebody's done that already.
I've got an album that I'm recording in December, first 2 weeks of December, and I have a Pledge Music drive that's going on right now. Isaac, you don't even know that.
I didn't know that. I looked on your website briefly.
You're hearing it here for the first time. I've got a conference call exclusive on the Isaac Morehouse podcast. At 3:00, in fact, I've got a telephone conference with my manager and some of the staff at a really cool new site, app, whatever, called Pledge Music. And it's kind of the new way that you're releasing albums. You're exactly right. You're right. Nail right on the head. You make people a part of the process. So I'm going to start this Pledge Music campaign, and people that pledge music to support the budget for the album, they get all kinds of stuff, all kinds of exclusive stuff, exclusive T-shirts, and special unreleased acoustic tracks of all the album cuts. They're all full band, but the people who support the album ahead of time, pre-order it, will get access to acoustic versions of all the songs that I just record at my house or something like that.
How much do I have to give to do some background vocals?
I'm telling you, Isaac, everything is for sale.
We'll leave it at that. So if you guys hear me doing some background vocals, like pitchy screaming in the background on one of Lucas's songs, you'll know either that I'm broke or, I don't know, that he was so poor he was desperate.
No, the way it works is that you would get credit. I would put you in the credits, but I probably wouldn't put if you were really good, I'd put you on the album, but most likely I would just give you a credit as a supporter and a background vocalist.
Well, okay, so do you mind talking about the financial side of what you're doing and like how it's going and all that stuff?
I don't mind talking
about it. Okay, so is most of your revenue right now coming from what you get paid to play live shows?
Yeah, I would say 99% of it.
Okay. And is that like after
Oh,
you've
no, no, with merchandise. Okay, are you including like selling T-shirts
okay,
and
so
stuff?
you sell merchandise at the shows.
I do, and I don't sell very many CDs. I mostly sell T-shirts and koozies and hats.
So what's the split between like the take that you get for playing a venue and then the amount that you sell in merchandise?
Um, merchandise is probably about 10% of my revenue.
Okay. Okay. And are you making enough in playing these 12 shows a month? Like, so you're paying for, your web hosting and the social media guy you're working with, and you've got a manager I saw on the website.
A
You're paying for all your
manager,
expenses.
a booking agent, the band is the most expensive
Okay,
part.
yeah. So I was gonna ask you about the band. You're a solo act, but you usually play with a band. Is that a rotating group or is that one band all the time?
Well, I'm not a solo act anymore because I don't play. I haven't played a solo
Oh, you're
show
just
in.
one of those bands that gets to be named after the front man. I like it.
Yeah,
Let them
yeah.
know who's boss.
Well, they're in my band. It is a rotating cast, but I don't play solo. I do not play. I just don't do it anymore. A lot of people want me to, but it just gets a little too hokey when it's just me and a piano. It starts sounding a little show tuney. It doesn't have the energy that I'd like it to have,
Okay.
unless I'm playing in some sort of a dark lounge, which I don't do anymore. I don't
Yeah.
play unless there's a stage and lights and sound. I don't play. So
Is that just because you enjoy that more, or because that's a more sustainable business model?
the most sustainable business model is to play solo and take all the money
Okay.
because I could make a whole boatload of money playing solo and playing Billy Joel and Elton John.
Just
Like,
kind of turn it into a 9 to 5 sort of
yeah,
mentality.
I know guys that make $175,000 doing it. They
Wow.
make, I mean, they make $1,000 a show, and you make it, and you don't have to pay anybody, and it's great, but you don't ever create a brand, and as soon
Yeah.
as you stop playing, you don't see another dime, and you don't have any fans, you don't have anything to sell,
Yeah.
and everybody just wants to hear you play covers, which is totally, if that's what you're into,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's an honorable profession.
I mean,
I
it's
I would do it if I couldn't write songs, or if it turns out that I can't write any more songs. That's what I'm gonna do. I would rather be a huckster like that rather than an
I mean,
attorney.
it's the technician versus the entrepreneur. It's owning a job or owning a business, and you're clearly motivated by creating something new, building something that's sort of bigger than just your ability to play the piano, and sing, of course. So are you clearing after you pay your expenses, your band, all that stuff, your travel, whatever? What are you clearing every month?
Oh man, it's not. I'm just trying to break even still.
Okay, okay, that's what
So
I was
so
wondering.
yeah, no, I'm trying to break even.
I
So
mean, and
anytime,
part of that's because you're like you could probably cut your costs, but you're trying to grow, so you're putting a lot of money into that.
yeah, I used to play solo, and then I said, I'm as soon as I made enough money, because I used to make $75 for 4 hours. That's what it used to be.
Wow.
And yeah, it was rough. And then it
Hey,
got
in
to the
any
point.
other industry, they'd be protesting and picketing and trying to go to Congress or something.
Thanks, Obama. Um, but I'm an independent contractor. And then when it got to the point where I made about $300, I thought a show. I said, it's all right. Now I can afford to hire a drummer, and I pay $150 a show, and I no longer play for 4 hours. So I'm at the point now where I'm playing 3 hour shows for like $300, and I brought in a drummer, and I pay him $150. And as soon as I got to about $450 a show, I said it's time to bring in a bass player, because if you're not a band, from a business standpoint, you're just an act, you're a show, you're not a band unless you got three guys,
Hmm.
at least three guys, and nobody makes it anywhere without a band. You got to have a band. That's just how. No, you can't just be playing your guitar and go to the top unless you're Ed Sheeran. You just cannot catapult to any sort of fame, and people don't take you seriously as a solo act. At least that's my perception, especially for guys at a piano. So as soon as I started making money, I found a way to spend that money on something that I thought would advance my career, such as hiring another player to be on stage with me. And when I hit the next level, I'm going to have a guitar player that joins me all the time.
Yeah.
And then I reached a certain level of success, a certain, money is, $700, $800 a show. And now I have and now I have a manager, and he takes his cut.
And is
And
his job primarily to go out and get you more shows?
no,
Or
no,
is
that's
he's doing the business end, the bookkeeping, all that kind of stuff?
it's a real mix. So
Okay.
my manager was here all morning in my meeting with me. We had a meeting for 6 hours yesterday. We meet all the time. We talk about merchandise. We talk about inventory. We talk about quarterly taxes that are due to the
Yeah.
to the local to San Antonio for sales tax. We
And you're
he,
one of several clients of his, I'm assuming.
yeah, I'm one of several.
Okay.
So but when it comes to shows, getting more shows, I have a booking agent that does that.
Gotcha.
And the booking agent takes 10% and the manager takes 15%. Now I'm out a quarter of everything I make. And then I have to pay the band, and I have a big van, my Vanna White, she guzzles the fuel. And I'm always repairing stuff. I'm buying new lights and new speakers, and I have got to replace my Personas board is starting to
So,
go
so you
out.
have to keep all your own equipment. Most of the venues don't have what you need.
Oh, the good venues do, but I still play some shows where I'll show up at a venue and I'll look at their gear and I'll just say mine stuff's way better than yours,
Yeah.
and I'll use mine because the show is really important to me. I'm a professional mover who plays music in between the moves. So I move this upright piano, this 625-pound piano, on stage every night and take it off stage. And I mean, I have like about a ton of gear in the back of my
So
van.
your personal health and fitness routine is all wrapped up into your job. You don't need to go lift weights.
I mean, my pain and suffering is wrapped up in my job. I don't lift. I lift only with my back, and I'm always straining. It's terrible. I can't. At some point down the road, if I start getting enough money at these gigs, I'm gonna find somebody to carry my stuff. That is like the big. That's the
Yeah.
big goal.
You need a big like Igor, to come along and so
Just some big meat mitts to pick up all my stuff.
yeah. If anyone's listening, if that sounds like a wonderful, glamorous job, you can find Lucas Jack and reach out to him. So what's your ideal venue, or maybe a way to make this more concrete? What's the best show you've ever played? You're sort of so far the thing that you said, yes, I want to be doing more of that.
Well, it's sort of a split between two different kinds of shows. So one of the shows is a support show where you open for somebody, and that best show would have been the Foreigner show that we opened up for Foreigner at this sold out theater show in San Antonio. It was like 2,600 people, and that was great. Everybody that came there paid $80 or $90 for their tickets, so they all listened. They all thought, oh, this opening band must be legit, so they just listened, and it was great.
Hmm.
And we sold a whole bunch of merchandise and made a ton of, I mean, hundreds of fans that have continued to come out and see us, and that was the most successful, coolest show that I've played. Other than that, we had some. I, I mean, we played for we played for the halftime show during the NBA Finals, and that was really cool. Um,
So you
Most people were
did.
there
So
to see
you did make
basketball.
it onto the. You made it to the NBA Finals. I mean, I knew it would happen. I told you.
I did make it to the NBA Finals. It's true.
So you said you had started to say there are two kinds of shows, and the one I'm assuming the Foreigner example is an example of like that's a really successful gig from a business standpoint. Huge exposure. Foreigner's a huge, well-known band. You had a lot of people, made a lot of fans. I was sort of thinking maybe you were going to say, and then the second kind is like the shows that are like the most fun to play, or maybe those are the same thing.
Uh, they're kind of the same thing, but no, the other shows are where I'm the headliner. So I'm the bill. I
Okay.
put the bill together. I'm the guy who plays last. It's my name's on the marquee. I sell, the ticket sales go to me. And the way ticket sales usually work is I usually get about 80% of the ticket sales. The venue takes the other 20%. That's usually financially how it works.
Okay.
But so the Foreigner show, I didn't have to sell any tickets, and it didn't matter if everybody that came to see Foreigner. But so that's a totally different transaction and event than everybody who comes that came to see me. So it's a little more rewarding when everybody does come to see you, but 150 people coming to see me versus 2,600 is,
Yeah.
both have their advantages. But my other good shows have just been a lot of these mid-sized rock venues. We had a really great show in St. Louis at a place called the Firebird. Had a really great show at Bell's Brewery in Kalamazoo when I was just there. And we get local radio support. They play the album and they do interviews with us, and they promote the show for us, and we bring out a lot of people through our promoting efforts. That's another thing. Promotion, promotion, promotion. If it doesn't get promoted, it doesn't happen,
Hmm.
which is essentially why I was talking to the social media guy all morning, because if you got to let people know where and when you're playing, and you got to connect with them, otherwise they're just not going to come to the shows.
Hmm.
And a lot of bands fall to the wayside because they don't want to grind. They don't
So
mind getting on the road, but if it doesn't matter if you go on the road for 2 years and you don't promote any of your shows and you play to 5 people every single night, you're going to be a gigantic failure.
yeah. So what does your day look like? How do you structure your day?
Well, I get up at about 10 after 6 with my girls. That's what time they get up. I get up and I feed them and I clothe them. I change their diapers. Well, one of them's potty trained now, but just recently. So I feed them, and then I put them in a double stroller, and I walk them about a mile away to daycare. I drop them off and I walk back, and then my day starts, and then I get home about 8 o'clock, and then
And
I
in a typical day, let's say you're not playing a show that day. What percentage of your time are you still, you said you're still playing, you're still keeping your chops up. Are you writing every day? Are you doing sort of working on your social media, your marketing? Do you break it up into chunks, or you just kind of take it as it comes?
well, honestly, it's been kind of a crapshoot. I kind of work on whatever is at the forefront of my mind, which is really bad for somebody who is addicted to Ritalin most of his life, because I no longer am, and it's just I don't know. I'm just kind of very scattered, but I'm always working on either editing videos or working on social media or updating my website or playing music. I kind of do a little. I probably play just at a piano and try to write for maybe like 4 hours a week.
Okay.
Um, and
And what is
so,
so 4 hours sitting there trying to write, like, does that normally result in a new song, or part of one, or what does it take to write, say, one song?
it depends. Sometimes they come really quickly, and sometimes they don't come at all.
Do the lyrics come first, or the music?
The writing process, I sit at the piano and I play until something musically strikes me as interesting. Um, because I hate writing songs that sound the same. So I kind of noodle. I'll play for hours. I'll play the same riff for hours and hours, and probably people think I'm crazy, but I try to hear a song inside of these chords that I'm playing, and eventually I kind of I sing nonsense words, and I just sing a whole bunch of words over and over again until something kind of sticks, and then I find that to be the hook, and then I work on a verse, because usually I write the chorus first, and then I work on a verse, and I kind of get the structure of how I write lyrics to the verse, the first verse, and I write the lyrics to the chorus, and then from then on I don't sit at the piano. I open Microsoft Word and I write the rest of the song,
Wow.
because the whole time I record over and over again with my iPhone. I record with a voice memo or whatever. I have thousands of voice memos, like 50,000.
Well, someday those are going to be worth tons. It'll be like the unreleased,
The basement
the
tapes,
basement tapes. Yeah, exactly, exactly.
the hard
That's
drive.
really fascinating, though. I mean, that is one of the most probably explicitly exploratory forms of music writing I've ever heard of, where you're really just playing around, playing chords, noodling around on the piano until you hear something. And then even lyrically, I've never heard anyone describe it that way, where you're just making up nonsense words and just saying a bunch of whatever comes to mind until you hear something that seems like it works, that seems like it fits. That's a really fascinating approach. There's almost no preconceived structure until you kind of find something within the chaos.
Well, the reason I think it works for me, and other people write differently. Some people sit there with a notebook and they write all these lyrics, and then they go to try to put music to it. For me, it just does not work. I've tried it. It just does. I end up. What happens is I write a song. If I do it that way, which I've done it many times, I write lyrics out to a song, and then I go try to write the music, and the music ends up being the same exact music every time, because of the pattern of the words and the emphasis and where the syllables lie. For some reason I keep writing the same song over and over and over again. So I've got to sit and write at the piano. But the main reason that it works for me that way, or the way that I write works for me, is because the lyrics have to sing right. It doesn't matter if they sound right when you read them, or they look right, or they're compelling, or they're smart, or they use cool words. If you can't sing them, if they don't sing right, they don't sound right. It does not. You've got to be able to sing it. So the most important part of the lyric for me is how it sounds when it's being sung. And I have to sit there and write a melody with a certain number of, with a certain number of syllables, and figure out where every single syllable goes, and where every internal rhyme goes, and where all the alliteration goes. And once I figure all that out, then I can go to the computer and really worry about, what's the song about? What's the story? How does the plot work out? Do I need a bridge? Where's the bridge go? Um, and so I spent a whole bunch of time at the piano, and then a whole bunch of time in front of a computer.
When you're not at the piano, do you say you're walking back from dropping your girls off? Do you get tunes in your head, or do you ever create songs that way, just straight up out of your mind, or do you usually have to be sitting at the piano?
I don't. I do work on lyrics a lot when I'm not. New ideas don't come to me, but uh, like I said, I kind of create an outline at the piano. I create what I call the riff, or the hook, with a piano, and then I create the melody, and how the lyrics are going to work out. So I'll basically just memorize some shitty first verse that I wrote, and then try to write a better song. Use that as sort of the scaffolding to write the really good verses.
Hmm.
And the thing I'll do when I walk my girl, or do whatever, I'm out and about, is I'll constantly be singing this new song that I've written. I'll sing these stupid lyrics that are going to be toss out lyrics, and I try to put new lyrics in there. So I'm always so when I'm not at the piano, I am singing these songs, and I'm putting new lyrics and new words in there and working on them. But the idea for the song, the melody or the chords or anything like that, almost never do I come up with an original idea if I'm not at the piano.
So we'll be wrapping up in a few minutes here. I know I'm taking a lot of your time, but finishing up on this process, it's so fascinating to me because you go through so many, as you call them, sort of throwaway lyrics to kind of build on. Once you get the song right, is it hard for you to let it lie? And do you want to later like continue to change it all the time? Or do you just know when you get it right? I've got the right lyrics, I've got it nailed, it's done, I can move on.
Every song could be better.
Hmm.
You just have to let it go. One thing that's really hard for me, this is a little bit unrelated, but it's really hard for me to play a song live for the first about a month, because all the other lyrics are going through my head, and I just can't remember which ones I decided to go with, because a lot of these songs have like 5 different verses, and I only choose two. And each new verse that I wrote has a completely different story, and it can take the song really dark, or it can take it, really lighthearted, or it can be funny, and one can be really sad. So it's hard for me to remember exactly where the song went. So it makes it writing all these lyrics does make it hard for me to remember my own lyrics. But I will. One thing I will say is I definitely edit a lot more than songwriters that I know, at least. A lot of people say if it doesn't come out in 10 minutes, it's not a good song. Some people really believe that. And I just think, would you want to read a book that someone wrote in 10 minutes? I mean, unless it's Jack Kerouac, I just don't think that's the best way to create art. And I guess my catchphrase, or thing that I'm always coming back to, is that editing is art, and knowing what to cut is art. And it's not some sort of, I have no belief in any sort of divine anything, including inspiration. So, you know, it, whatever, it's what I ate that day. It's why I wrote that. There's nothing special about it that it happened all at once. You can write a really great song over 6 months, and it will be really good at the end of that 6 months. So I'm a big fan of editing, but it is it is hard when it comes to putting it on an album. I love writing new songs and going out and singing them for people, and I don't really care how the lyrics can always change. But once you put it on an album, you're kind of stuck with it.
Hmm.
So, for example, right now I've got these recording dates from November and December. I'm recording with these guys in Virginia, and I've got about 25 songs that I've got to whittle down to 9. And then once I whittle those 9 songs, figure out what 9 songs I'm going to record, then I'm really going to rack my brain and worry like hell that I didn't get that the lyrics don't make perfect sense, or that I didn't, is there not a better rhyme or something better? So right before recording on an actual album is when I really start to sweat.
Hmm. Um, I mean, the fact that you edit everything out, hey, all I can think is this is great. It's it's this great business opportunity. You build up this brand, and then it's like, re-releasing now with 3 alternate endings. The verses you never heard. It's gonna be amazing.
No,
Um,
the way that works is you play them live and then you release a live album. And the only reason people want to hear your live album, want to buy it, is because they know they can't hear it on the actual album cut.
yeah.
So they'll buy your live CD because that has all the cool verses with the profanity that they want.
um, so you said you've taken piano lessons a, a lot of times throughout the years. What about voice lessons? You seem to sort of think of yourself, or at least from my take, as a pianist first and foremost, but you're a vocalist too. And have you done work? Have you done vocal lessons, or sort of what do you think of? Do you hone your craft on the vocal side equally, I guess?
Well, I consider, to correct you, I consider myself a singer who accompanies himself on piano.
Okay, yeah, I was gonna
I'm
ask that.
because
Okay,
I'm not that good at the piano. I'm pretty good, but I'm not good enough to be in somebody's band. Okay, so I'm
really?
not to be their keyboard player who's just like ripping solos. I don't play a Hammond B3 organ. I don't play
So you're
B3.
not like a jazz pianist or whatever.
I'm not a jazz guy. I'm really good at playing the piano and singing at the same time. When I'm not singing, I don't enjoy it.
Huh.
I like to be singing,
So
and
the
in fact,
singing is what it's all about for you. That's fascinating.
yeah, and in fact, I don't really like to sing without playing either. It's sort of this marriage. I like to do both at the same time. Um, so yeah, when my voice changed when I was probably 12 or 13, and I started being able to really hold pitch better, and the tone of my voice changed more to a man voice. Uh, I really became obsessed with singing and kind of let the piano, fall to the wayside a little bit, and became much more of a singer. Um, and I took voice lessons and stuff. And when it comes to singing, as far as you know, honing my craft or whatever, I do sing all the time, all day. So I sing. I mean, I sing hours, many hours. I can sing a 4 hour show, and I could probably sing for 8 hours, and most people can. It's just like a controlled scream. I have a pretty well developed vocal cords, I guess. So I work at singing all the time, and I know that,
It was all that arguing as a lawyer.
yeah, it's if you don't sing, you're not going to be a good singer. It's like people talk about, you can talk about singing all you want, but until you start singing, you got to practice singing. They sell, for example, I take guitar lessons now too. They sell all these tools to strengthen your fingers, right? You could just play the freaking guitar. You know, it's like you're going to need to do that.
Yes,
So,
that
they
is a
sell you
great.
all
Yeah.
these tools, and when it comes to singing, I just sing all the time, and I sing a lot, and I record myself a lot, and I listen back, and
Do,
um,
do you do you ever write songs where you're like deliberately, okay, I'm gonna push myself vocally to do something that's hard for me to do, that you've got to practice a lot before you can do it, whether it's a note that you hit or a particular technique or something?
I write out of my range constantly, and it's a real boon. It bothers me because I want to have a bigger vocal range. I want to be Freddie Mercury,
Yeah, who
but I'm
doesn't?
not. I know. So I want to have this big, huge vocal range, and I write these songs that are out of my range. And then when I come to the editing, point, I think, I come to play them live, I think, man, I really can't play. I really can't sing this, and I have to lower the key a few keys and change the melody maybe a little bit to fit my voice. So I usually am. Uh, I usually write out of my range and push myself all the time, but I've recently been trying to have some songs with a bunch of falsetto in them. This next album is going to have a couple songs, a song called Bronson and a song called Train of Thought, that both have really super high, screamy vocals, and it's something that I'm really pushing myself to do. But for the most part, I do my best to write within my vocal range, because the songs that I love, are a lot of them are out of my vocal range, and I try to write songs like that, and then I just kind of suck at them. So
All right, two final questions. The first, do you ever think about giving it up, music as a career, and just going back to music as a hobby?
um, I I consider quitting only if something terrible were to happen in my life where I could not perform anymore. If my tongue got cut off and my fingers were mangled or something, then I would.
Sounds
I,
like
I
a
don't.
Johnny Cash song or something.
Yeah, I don't think I would just sit around and talk about the glory days and do nothing with the rest of my life. I would do something else. Or if something more terrible were to happen in my family and I had to and I had to go back to work or something. If somebody said, "Hey, you got to make 100 grand a year for the rest of your life," I would say, "I got to go back to law." That's what I would do. But until that happens, I don't see. I'm not going to quit.
Yeah.
I'm a firm believer, and it's gotten me this far in life that if you work hard and you work smart and you do the right things and you just outlast all the other people chugging along, then I mean you're gonna end up all right. You're gonna come out on top. There are a lot of people making a lot of money in music, and about 99% of the people are completely broke and losing. But I think that if I work really hard and apply myself the way I have in the other, here up until this point in my life, I really firmly believe that it's going to work out. And it's every year I make a whole lot more money. Now I find new ways to spend it every year. But I'm just investing in my business and my brand and my music. And I just think it's going to keep getting better and better. It's gotten better every year that I've played music, and I really hope that it doesn't stop, and I don't think it will.
So I'm gonna remind everyone again before I ask the final question. LucasJackMusic.com. Please go there, check it out. You can listen to a lot of songs. You can find some cool gear, see upcoming show dates. You can follow Lucas Jack on Facebook, Twitter, etc. You can give him feedback on how his social media presence is doing. I'm sure he would. I'm sure he would love that. And I keep thinking of that phrase you said before, which I think is so inspiring to me that you were propelled by the inertia of safe choices and just kind of had the all in a moment the gumption or the courage to do something different. I'm truly inspired by that. So here's the final question: what song do you want us to end with? I want to play one of your songs and let listeners hear it on the way out. Which one of your songs do you think is a good pick?
From a production standpoint, I think my favorite song, is when I say production standpoint, the way the instrumentation played out and this the way the song sounds more than the lyrics. I do like the lyrics, but I really like the sound of the song. Don't Get Carried Away.
I was thinking We Come Out at Night. I loved that one. I just listened to a bunch of your stuff, but now I'll tease people. You should go listen to We Come Out at Night. But we're gonna play Don't Get Carried Away. Lucas Jack, thank you so much for coming on the show and telling us about what you're doing.
Don't get carried away on a plane. Don't get caught in a miracle maze. 'Cause there's no magic in me. If I had it, you'd see by now. But I'm grounded. Kurt's got nothing to do with his time. And love's got nothing to do with his wife. One more family tree on a planet of concrete. It's crowded. One step, take a break, turn around and run away. Everybody's doing it now. No one dares to figure it out. But soon enough you find the stuff that everybody's got. Soon those curtains are way out of style. All those tools are only builders.
stuff that everybody's got. Oh, it's hard to start and it's hard to stop, but soon enough you'll find the stuff like everybody. Soon enough you'll find the stuff that everybody's got. There's no magic in me. If I had it, you'd see. But I'm grounded.